All right, so here we go. In this video here, what we're going to do is we're going to add to the project that we've been working on. Excuse me. We have our app.js, okay? And what it does now is returning the data to us um, in the console. We're in our terminal, okay? And that's okay for right now, but we're about to change this up. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is we are going to build we're going to do server side rendering, okay? And for server side rendering, uh Node has some templates that we can use, and these templates will be used much well. They're structured HTML-ish in a lot of ways. And from that, we can take our data and build things dynamically. Okay. Node has a handful of templates that you can use. There's handlebars, there's mustache, there's pug, and there's EJS. And the one that we're going to use is EJS. If you would like to redo this in pug or handlebars, what have you, you can do that. But we're just going to use EJS for this lesson. EJS can be a little complicated, kind of, but it looks a lot like HTML, so that's why I want to go with that. Okay. So let's get started. What I'm gonna do is, let me open up another terminal. You may need to terminate your server. So again, to terminate your server is Control C. So you type, we just press Control C, and you're gonna need to terminate your server because you're gonna have to install EJS. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna open up another tab, which again, why I encourage everybody to, hey, learn how to use your terminal and your Git bash. Okay, learn how to create new windows and such so that you can do things the cool way, if you will. But you'll be able to do things without disrupting your work. Okay, so let's get into it. I don't know what I just did with my monitor. Okay, there it is, but I'm still good. We're still in the game. All right, so I'm gonna start off by, here I am in my Futurama app, as you can see. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type npm I and then EJS. So I'm gonna add EJS to this project. npm I EJS. And there you see that it's been added. So this, again, the cool thing about Node is we can just import stuff when we need to, and it's that simple. Now we have access to it. So once you type npm I EJS, you can come over here to your package.json, go away, go over here, package.json, and there you can see EJS has been added, it's been installed. So now we have access to it, we can do stuff. Okay, cool. So what are we gonna do now that we got it? Let's go over here to app.js, and we need to well, before we do that, excuse me, we need to add, I'm going to add two folders inside my Futurama app. Okay, I'm going to add a folder called public, and I'm going to add a folder called views. So let's say make dir public space views, just like that, and hit enter. All right. And then what I'm going to do is inside my views, I'm going to add two folders. They're going to be called pages and partials. And so I'm going to say make dir views slash pages space views slash partials. Okay, so take a look at that. Again, pause it if you need to. You see what I have there. Press enter. Okay, and again, always check and make sure if you need to, if you're in the correct directory by typing pwd and hitting enter, and you should see Futurama app or something like that if you didn't type that exactly. Anyways, all right. So I got my pages and my partials set up. I got my public folder. So our views folder is going to be the folder that contains our EJS files. Okay. And so we separate them. So pages, and you'll see what happened. S is going to look for the pages. Okay. Partials contains bits and pieces of the page. All right, and we'll see how that looks and how that works. The public folder is where any static files go. Okay. If we were to do some CSS styling to this, our CSS folder would go inside of the public folder. If we have some images, for this that are static images would go inside of the public folder. If we were to write our own JavaScript, let's say to do some custom functionality, that will go in the public folder. So the public folder is the folder where any and all static files go. Views is going to be, again, where our templates are going to go. Okay. All right. I think I'm good now. So come back over here inside of app.js, and there you can see there's my public folder and there's my views folder. Okay, cool. Right on. Excuse me. So now what we need to do is we need to let app.js know, hey, use the public folder for our static files. Okay. And so I'll do that right here. I'm going to say app.use express.static open parentheses, and in quotes, I type in public. All right. And that should handle that. And then what I want to do is I want to let my app.js file know, hey, we're going to use the view engine EJS. Okay, and I normally put that here at the bottom. So I'm going to say app.use. I'm sorry, not app.use. I'm going to say app.set. That's correct. App.set. We're going to set our view engine, comma EJS. So this is saying, hey, we're using EJS for our view engine. And this is going to, again, allow us to create templates. All right. So, so far, so good. If you got that, now we're ready to load up these pages. Okay. And we'll start with the home page. So inside of views, inside of views and inside of pages. So while I have pages highlighted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to name this home.ejs. Make sure you put the E, home.ejs. And don't do like what I would do a whole lot, and I'll probably do it again, ESJ. EJS. So create a home.ejs. So there's my home.ejs. And like I mentioned before, EJS looks a lot like HTML in a lot of ways. The tags are a little different, and we'll see what happens there. But for right now, again, we can type, it's going to look like HTML. So we could type HTML:5 in this EJS file, and some HTML will pop up. All right. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to, right here where it says title, my title element where it says document, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to inject some EJS right here. Okay. And it's going to look like this. I'm going to do a chevron, and then, excuse me, parentheses, percentage symbol, and then equal sign. And right here, I'll type title, and then I'm going to close it with another percent symbol and then chevron. So it'll look like this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this real simple. I'm not going to do a whole lot. I could, but I'm not going to. I'm going to make a header element. So I'm going to say header, do this with me. All right. Inside of my body. So you see here on line 9, inside my body, I'm going to type header dot header hashtag header, no spaces, just like that. You can see header dot header hashtag header. Once you got that typed out like so, check it, make sure it looks like mine, exactly like mine, no spaces or anything. Press tab, and that creates a header element with the class header and the ID of header. And I'm going to press enter. So now I'm in there. And I'm going to now create an H1. So just say H1 like so, and then tab. And here we'll inject some EJS as well. So I'm going to say the percent chevron percent symbol equals, and then I'm going to type in right here name, and then percent chevron. So it should look just like this. All right. And if you got that, now we're going to do the same thing with the footer. So I'm just going to say footer dot footer hashtag footer like so, and then press tab once you got that. And then I'm going to make a p tag, and I'm just gonna say what I always do, site by, and I'll just say site by Satch work like so. Okay, now last thing we're going to do, in between this header and footer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type I'm going to say main, MAIN, main dot main hashtag main. How to make a main element, main. All right. And then in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a H2, and it's going to say, welcome to my Futurama app. Okay. And once you got that, this is a good start. Let's Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our app.js. So let's go to app.js. Okay. And we're going to change something up. So right here, if you look here in our app.get, our root path, we are taking in request and response, and we're telling it to do stuff. And right now we're just saying response.end. So it should show my Futurama app. So if I come again back over here to my browser and hit enter, I can see, my Futurama app. All right. That's about to change. All right. So how are we going to change it? We're going to do this. Instead of response.render, I'm going to comment this out because I'm not going to do that anymore. What I'm going to do, instead of response.end, rather, I'm going to response.render. Okay. And this response.render method is going to render a page. Let me put a comment up here so we can see what this does. So this dot render is going to take a path as an argument. In other words, where are we rendering? We're rendering at localhost 3000. And then the second argument is an object. And this object contains what we are rendering. So where are we rendering? And then what are we rendering? All right. So response.render is going to go, the path is going to be the same, just a slash. Okay. And then what are we going to render? I'm sorry. It's not slash. This is pages and no slash. It's just pages / home. That's right. So we're going to render where? Pages / home. In other words, pages home. This file right here is what we're going to render, pages / home. And then what are we going to render? Again, that's an object. So I open, close curly braces like so. And then I place in my properties. So the title is whatever I want this to be. I could say my Futurama homepage, and then name, and I'll say Satch's Futurama home, Satch's Futurama app. So this is different than response.end. If we see response.end is just going to send a stringed response back onto the browser like we have right now, my Futurama app. What the render does is the render is going to render an actual page onto the browser. So we need to know, hey, where again are we rendering? We're rendering at pages / home. Okay. And then what are we rendering? We're rendering this object, and this object has title and name. The title is my Futurama homepage. The name is Satch's Futurama app. Now, if you have all that, check your syntax, parentheses, and whatnot. We'll come back over here to the browser and refresh, and voila, there we have Satch's Futurama app. You can see here the title, my Futurama homepage. We have Satch's Futurama app. So what did we do? Let's look and see what we did. In our render, we have a title property, and we set that to my Futurama homepage. And then we have a name property that we set to Satch's Futurama app. And this is happening at pages / home. So when we go to pages home, and what we did is we injected EJS right here. So that title where I have parentheses I mean, well, I have the, excuse me, I'm my EJS, I'm loading in or echoing or printing out, if you will, the title. So whatever title we have here in this object, that's what's going to be displayed here. Same thing with name. Whatever we have for name here, that is going to be displayed here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. So if you didn't get that, go back and watch and see what I did. Pause it, make sure that you typed what I have exactly as I did, and make sure again you're on localhost 3000 because that's our home page. All right. All right. So now let's add some more stuff. What we're gonna do is, because while this is cool, what we have here, it's still not optimal. Okay. Um, because these pages can be, they could be a massive amount of pages. And since we're using a template structure, we might as well use that out to our advantage. Okay. So how are we going to do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to create two files inside of my partials. I'm going to create one that's called header.ejs, and I'm going to create one that's called footer.ejs. So here inside of partials, and then again, I like to do it in here. You could do it inside Visual Studio Code if you want to, but I'm going to do it in here. I'm going to say make dir views slash, no, not make dir, I'm touching. Touch views slash partials slash header dot ejs, and then views slash partials slash footer dot ejs. So a header dot ejs and footer dot ejs. And again, please make sure you're using the extension EJS. All right. Whew. Okay, so I got my header.ejs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at the end of this header element. So the closing header element, I'm going to copy all the way up. Why don't you scroll up, man? Make me do it like this. Well, I'm going to start here, doc type. And I'm going to copy. Well, I'm not going to copy. I'm going to select everything to the closing header element. I've got that selected. I'm going to cut it. Control X or Command X. And then I'm going to place it here in my header. And then I'm going to go back to home once I've done that. And I'm going to start here at my footer. I'm going to cut that as well and place that in my footer.ejs. Like so. Real simple. And now when I do that, if I come over here and I refresh, then I just get welcome to my Futurama app. Like so. And I don't have my title. You see all the other stuff is missing. So I need to add that back. So I come over here to my home.ejs, and I'm going to run some EJS right here. I'm going to run this EJS function. So open up an EJS tag like so. But for a function, I need to put a dash right there. I'm going to say include open parentheses. This is a string. I say dot slash partials slash header. And then I need to semicolon and then close my EJS. And then I do the same thing with footer. So what we're saying is, hey, include this file right here. So go into so go out of pages. That's what that dot slash is. Going out of pages, going into partials, and then going to header. So that will include the header. And then same thing likewise. Include, go out of pages, go into partials, and then footer. And now when I come back here and I refresh, and my page is back intact. Oodalolly. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So what does that mean? Now that we got a home page, an actual home page, that means we could probably do the same thing with the data. All right. So let's look at the data. I'm going to come back over here to sample APIs. If I click on characters, this is where it's important for you to know the data and understand it. See how things are laid out. So we have a name property, and that name property is an object which contains first, middle, and last. There's an image, a headshot, and a main image. I guess some of them have a headshot, or do they? I don't know. Maybe not. There's a gender, a species, a home planet, occupation, etc., etc. Now we could add some bootstrap to this if we want to. Maybe do that later. Not worried about that right now. What we want to do is we just want to see how this works. Okay. So we'll just start with that. We'll just get everything to work. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to call this characters.ejs. So I'll just do this one right here. So inside pages, I'm going to create a new file and call it characters.ejs. So we got our characters.ejs. And we're going to include that header and footer. Oh, excuse me, include as a string, partials / header, and then close it up. Now, I believe, I don't know. I mean, I could try it, but the last I checked with EJS, the semicolon is mandatory. So I know when we're doing the slides on JavaScript. In those lessons, we talked about the semicolon and how in JavaScript it represents the end of a statement, but it's not needed. I'll check again in a little bit, but I believe it's necessary in EJS. And that's why I encourage people who are just learning to use the semicolon in JavaScript so that it won't trip you up like right here. All right, so I got my header, and I'm going to make a main.main #main. And I'm going to add a H2 right here, and I'll say characters. And then I'm going to include my footer. Okay. And once you got that, we can test this out. Let's go back to our browser Oh, before we go to the browser, let's go to our app.js. Once you have this, let's go to app.js. And so now we're going to app.getCharacters. And so what do we want to do? So we fetched all that data. And then let me write this how I normally do. Let me chain that. So then take the response.json, then take the data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that right there and open up a curly brace like so. So what are we going to do with the data right here? We're going to take the data and we're going to response.render. We're going to response.render. And this is where, let's see, I think we may have to change something right here. I believe we are. We'll see. Response.render pages / characters because we want to get that characters pages. And then our object title is going to be, we'll say characters, if I can spell it correctly. The name, I'll say our list of characters. Let's start right there before, and let me see what this looks like. I don't know if I think I need to change something up. So I'm gonna come back over here, localhost 3000, and I'm gonna add characters to the path. And there we go, our list of characters. Okay, so that did work good. I'm thinking of something else. So there's our list of characters. Cool. Well, that's the page, not the list. All right. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to add the data to what we render. So I'm going to say data and then colon data. So the data property is containing the data that we get from our response. The data that we have here in our that we get from our response, that's being passed in as the value for our data. And again, if we want to, I can console.log data. All right, just to test it. I like to do that. Come over here and there's all my data. Cool. So now that that's working, now we can use this. Now we have this data here. We have access to it. We can use it. And oh, by the way, when you have, as we have a case like we have here, where the property and the value are the same name and they're spelled exactly the same way. One thing I like about JavaScript, amongst many other things, JavaScript says, hey, you can just type it once like so. So this here, where I just have data, that's the same thing as saying data colon data. It's the exact same thing. All right. So let's do some stuff now. We've been doing stuff, but let's do something different. I'm going to come over here to characters now. Now that I have access to all this, I can come over here to characters. And what I can do is I can add some stuff here. So what I'll do is I'm going to write some EJS code right here. And it's going to look a little weird, a little convoluted, if you will. little clustered, but it's going to make sense. What I want to do is, again, for data is an array of objects. We can see that here. There's data. Excuse me. Let's see, where do I start? Way up here. Where's the first one? There we go. So we have an array. I can tell it's an array because I got my square bracket right here. And it's an array of objects. I can tell it's objects because I have my curly braces. So I have an array of objects. So what can I do with an array? If I want to do something to every item in the array, I can do a for each loop. So I can say, hey, I'm here inside of main underneath my H2. I'm going to do some EJS. So I'm going to open up the EJS tag. I'm not going to add anything right here. Okay. I'm going to say data dot for each. And we'll say for each item, what will we do? For each item, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a div, and that div will just contain their name and, let's say, their first name, their age, and we'll do an image. We'll add an image. Okay. So maybe I'll make it to a figure. Yeah, I'll do a figure instead of a div. But there'll be, yeah, I'll do a div, and inside the div make a figure. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'll do. All right, so this is where it gets a little weird. Okay, so I'm gonna say data dot for each item. I'm gonna open up my curly brace. Okay. And since I'm gonna do this on different lines, what EJS has us to do is we have to either close that EJS tag right here, like so. But then down here, I'm going to need to open up and close the EJS tag right here. It's really weird. This is the one thing I don't like about EJS, that you have to do this. Other than that, it's pretty cool. But here, see, we have to open up the EJS tag and then close it here, and then open and close a new one. So this is what you should look like. Check it, pause, make sure you look like this before you move on. Okay. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to take each item and I'm going to make a div element. I haven't added any classes or anything like that. Not doing that right now. Again, because I can add some bootstrap and styling and, create my own CSS style sheet. I could do all that. Not worried about that right now. So there I have my div. In the side of the div, I'm going to make a figure element. And inside of the figure, I'm going to make an image. So I need an image. So I'm going to use an IMG tag. Let's see if I can just type it out. Yep. So image tag. In the source right here, the source is going to be item.images.main. So I need to put that in. I'm going to write that out as EJS. So I'm going to make my EJS tag inside of the quotes, as you can see here. Item.images.main, and then close your EJS like so. And then the alt, because you always need to have an alt, I'm going to say image of, and then go into EJS again. This is what I really do like about EJS, because you can see it's template structured. So image of, and this will be item dot name dot first. Yeah. And then close that up. Okay. So there's the image. And then I need to make a fig caption. So fig caption And the fig caption will just be item dot name dot first. And if I want to, I can say, I can add to this. You see, I escaped this EJS syntax, and this will be item dot name dot last. Let me put that on separate line like so you can see how it looks. All right. And this looks good. So now what you if you know, pause the video, check and make sure you have what I have here. Okay. Once you have that, let's come over here and refresh and look at there, the characters. And you can see each one has the image and it's got their first and last name. Oh, Hermes doesn't have an image. So if they don't have an image, excuse me, that's the data. So like I mentioned with sample APIs, sometimes, you know, the data, let's see, maybe this image doesn't pop up. Maybe there's something wrong here. But there we go. Look at that. Look at what we did. And so you could do this with everything inside of each one of these endpoints. So with episodes, with questions, info, etc., you can build out the pages like so, using EJS or some other view engine. So we're going to continue with this in another video, because the way that this is structured right now, it works. It does. However, our app.js file, if we were to build this out for all of the different endpoints, you can imagine that this file would get pretty long. And so we want to do something differently so that our app.js file isn't so heavy. Okay, so we'll look and see how we can do that on another video. We'll get into what we like to call middleware, and we'll see what that is. Okay, and so we'll do that on the other side of this video. If you enjoy these lessons, you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my page, comment, like it, share it, all that stuff like that, so we can keep this thing rolling, because I need to get more bottled water or something. I don't know, I just made that up. Anyways, I'll see you on the other side of this video, where we'll see how we can spread this work out some.